The story begins with an average 9-5 office-going guy who became excited to use the new type of subscription-based vending machine that provides only one drink a day. Since he was a vending machine enthusiast, he was eager to try out something he had never done before as it felt like treasure hunting to him. But just when he was about to make the payment, a truck came rushing into the scene and knocked the vending machine in midair. But our overexcited office guy decides to save the vending machine from being broken, which ends up taking his life. Surprisingly, he reincarnated near a lake as the only thing that took his life. What an irony. Knowing that there is nothing that can be done, he ends up accepting his new life and sets his new lineup of drinks for new pricing for the customers. But the problem is that the vending machine uses points rather than electricity. Each hour costs 1 point, and for straight days, he had no visitor or customer that came to use it. Suddenly, the arrival of a frog person makes him realize that he is living in another world, and just when he plays back his welcome tune, he gets on with bashing the machine with his weapon. When he was deliberately losing HP and another frog person came to the scene with an axe, some girl warrior rushed into the scene like Tarzan. When the girl was about to get attacked by the frog people, he ended up saving her with the help of his force field power, which used up quite some points as he had to continue it for a while. The girl starts crying for food after waking up as she regrets her choice not to be a hunter when she had time. The introduction of the vending machine came into her life as a savior since she was able to buy the food with her money, even if it was quite expensive for her. Everything from the vending machine was so great that she kept on purchasing everything and chugging it down almost instantly. When she finishes the food, she introduces herself as Lammies, and she is able to understand the situation of the main character. She finds him similar to her friend named Hilami, and our main character ends up protecting her at night with his force field as he was the only thing that kept away from being lonely. On the way, Lammies ends up buying potato chips from his new lineup, and the main character understood that it was hurting her wallet, but he had no way to live off it other than selling the goods. When Lammies arrived at the settlement, she ended up introducing the main character to the guards named Karios and Gorth. When they propose to her the idea of selling the main character, she forbids them to do so and explains how it works. They both were surprised just as Lammies once was when she first met the main character and got mesmerized by the functionality. When she went back to the inn, the main character met Monami and her mother who was the owners of the inn, and the inn is where she stayed. When the introduction to the main character finished, Monami noticed that Lammies had no money with her, and it would be impossible for her to pay for the lodging as she spent everything in the machine. It ended up making the main character sad, but the owner told her she could work and stay while the machine stays outside. Before the day ended, Lammies ended up naming the main character Boxo, and he was happy with that as well. Living in the settlement was fun for our main character as he was taken care of by Monami, and he also was able to find regular customers. The number one customer were the ones that were on guard duty for the settlement as they kept coming back constantly. One day, the brat of a big merchant Suori was sad, and he made her happy by giving her something to eat for free, which ended up making her really happy. After a few days, Lammies bought new gear to carry our main character, and when she entered the settlement, a talking bear greeted her, which ended up shocking our main character. Lammies noticed that all of the adventurers are fully loaded up to attack a frog fiend base, and they get introduced to one of the hunter girls in the squad. Lammies also introduces herself as a hunter to her, and the main character could guess the hunters are actually adventurers. The talking bear who shocked our main character is the director of the Hunters Association, and he wanted Lammies to carry Boxo in the fight since they will need his help for food and ration while they go on the offense. Since Boxo had to go, Lammies agreed to go on, and one of the seniors promised that she will be in the transport team so she will not have to attack any frog fiends as they will protect her. The hunter seemed kind of suspicious to Boxo because of his behavior, and Lammies could see through his face just like Boxo himself. The hunter guy is named Captain Kirioil, and the woman in the team named Philmina stopped him from behaving weirdly by punishing him with her magical power. On the way, none of the hunters and carriers could stop drooling from joining Lammies and Shui, so they joined them to eat food from the vending machine as well. The new lineup of cup noodles made them so glad they kept coming for it. When Boxo was racking up points, he made the purchase of the omnidirectional vision, which was able to help him with greater vision whenever Lammies would carry him. Even though the new ability was useful, it kept making Boxo sick as it made him feel like he was about to go vomit. When they set up camp for the night while everyone was eating, Lammies get informed by the director that they will soon have to engage to combat with the frog fiends and the other remnants. He was worried about Lammies and Boxo, and that they will not be able to guarantee their safety, which tenses her up about bringing Boxo with her, but he was eager to join them in their travel. Boxo promised himself that he will continue to help Lammies, no matter how many points it cost him, since she was the first friend he gained in the new world. Finally, they reach the enemy base, and everyone straight up joins the fight, including Lammies, who carried on her back Boxo while fighting. Captain Kirioil was impressed by the strength of Lammies as she continued to mow down frog fiends on the way, while Filmina blasted through the enemies with her magic. But somehow Boxo gets hit from behind as the enemies surrounded them from all the way, which distracted Lammies as she felt bad for him. Lammies blocking all of the attacks from Boxo reminded him of the past and how his life ended in the first place. Being reminded of the past, Boxo wanted to act like their shield, so Lammies and the others do not get hit by the enemies. Boxo immediately turned his force field on, which ended up splattering all of the frog enemies around them with surrounding light. The hunter girl on their team didn't understand what was happening and thought that it was Lammies' powers, but Lammies herself ended up clearing up the fact that it was indeed Boxo and not her. Lammies instructs Boxo that he should let her know if enemies get behind his back, which ends up helping her as she keeps plowing through them. Boxo uses his playback voice records to confirm the incoming enemies, which makes her attacks smoother than before with the overpowered fists and sharp movements. The incident makes her remember her martial arts master, as he would train her with a boulder strapped behind her back, and Captain Kirioil praising her ends up distracting her miserably. But they didn't have to worry, since Boxo used up his force field once again to save them all. When Kirioil notices the power, he starts asking questions, which gets Boxo suspicious of him, but there is no use going on stealth since Lammies herself kept spreading the truth. The awful face the captain made in the end made him even more suspicious, as there were chances that he might try to steal him. Finally, the battle of the hunters against the frog fiends ends. Everyone gets on with cleaning up the battlefield, and they are commanded by Kirioil to cut the tongues of the monsters. When it came to joining the front lines, Lammies decided to join the hunters to help them, and Boxo once again agreed with her. They all went to join the director, where they were fighting for their lives to clear the settlement, and when the fight ended, he anticipated that the reactions of the fiends may indicate the arrival of a king frog fiend, as he may be the one guiding the others. The director left with his main soldiers to take down the king, while the average hunters such as Lammies and one or two others got left behind for being in charge of food. When everyone was busy getting food, Lammies went to lend a spare hand to help an injured person, so she had to leave Boxo alone, which ended up provoking an evil-looking person as he laid his eyes upon Boxo. The strange and mysterious man glances over everywhere to see if anyone was around and proceeds to steal money from Boxo with the wire he brought with him. But Boxo makes trouble for him as he starts playing his pre-recorded greets to get him noticed by the public. The thief keeps on banging on Boxo, and he ends up releasing a can of hot scorching corn soup heated to the max, which makes him go on rage. The thief loses his calm and targets Boxo with his knife to hurt him, and as Boxo could guess, he ends up getting caught by Lammies herself red-handed. Lammies starts interrogating the man named Gugoil, and his intuition gets confirmed by the hunters and Boxo himself. Lammies decides to tie the man down as the hunters started guarding him, but suddenly everything changes as the king frog fiend appears by blasting everything near them, as everyone starts wondering where the guarding party went to. The monster looked dangerous to everyone as a huge flame was engulfing all over his body, and instantly the director and the whole team appears, telling his other members to run away to a safe place. When everyone starts running for a safer place somewhere, Lammies didn't know what to do, as she wasn't prepared to face something monstrous with Boxo on her back. None of the weapons were working on the monster fiend, and at the same time, their pet boar wasn't ready to get running as it was too scared by the atmosphere. Lammies gives the boar an opportunity to flee from the danger zone and takes the rope of the cart to run it herself. Knowing that Boxo wouldn't be able to save the wounded with his field force, he gets another idea in his mind to save everyone from danger, but he might have to spend countless points on it. The Great Frog Fiend was only a few feet away from them, and Boxo rushed his best to add a new function and form to his body while he buys 2 liters of multiple cola bottles to protect everyone from the trouble. Boxo changed his shape into a rounded Mentos vending machine and hands Lammies over the cola bottles, but the instructions given by Boxo were too hard for her to understand since he had limited voice messages to run. All he could say was to insert the coins, letting her know that she has to put the mentors into the bottles, but it was hard for her to decode as she was from a whole different universe. When she was struggling to decode whatever he was trying to say to her, the hunter girl with bow and arrows decides to stop the tied-up villain on the cart from yelling by putting cola and Mentos inside his mouth at the same time. The explosion that happened inside his mouth ended up overflowing all of the colas straight outside his mouth, which gives Lammies the idea of using the cola bottles and Mentos efficiently. When the mighty monster was almost about to attack their cart directly by jumping on it, everyone around the scene jumps back on the cart, getting ready with the bottles of colas and Mentos to use their last strand of hope to evade their upcoming life-threatening danger. The main course begins as soon as everyone gets their hands on the Coca-Cola bottles and starts filling them up with Mentos candies to use the carbonated strength in order to save the cart from the grasp of the monster. Not only them, but also, Philomena was doing her best to use the water power with her magic to corner the inflamed monster, and when it wasn't enough, she doubled the strength with every bit of power she had left. Seeing that there is no other way left, Lammies and her group target the eyes of the monster and keep on blasting the cola bottles as much as they could. Finally, the fire got weaker as the monster gets hurt and proceeded to hide its eyes from the others. When the main hunters get busy fighting the monster as they could finally hit it with their weapons, Lammies uses her legs as much as she can to rescue the injured from the scene. The blasts made by the monster weren't hot anymore, and the hunters were able to get their hits on it quite efficiently. Then the director jumped in the mid-air to deal the final blow to the monster as he finished it off with his sharp claws. The monster was finally defeated by the Hunters Association, and everyone was feeling quite ecstatic about their achievement. But Boxo was distressed by thinking that he had lost more than 2,000 points to save everyone around him. Even though everyone kept on praising President Hacken, but he showed his gratitude to Lammies and Boxo for their help throughout the journey. He also admitted his mistakes since they were exposed to danger because of his incompetency. They all went home with success-filled chests, while Boxo made the highest sale in a day, even though he had to waste a lot. But the ruined and abandoned condition of their settlement ended up shocking everyone in fear, as they never witnessed or dreamed of their camp being like that.